The Bengals fanbase didn't even get a chance to catch its breath today, because we've got another surge of breaking news coming out of Cincinnati. Moments ago, the team made a major roster move involving wide receiver Germaine Burton, and it has instantly become the biggest headline of the day. Along with that, we've got fresh updates on Higgins and Trey Hendrickson, plus a wave of social media chatter dragging Joe Flacco's name into the conversation about the Bengals' future. But first, the news that dropped like a hammer across the league. Cincinnati has officially decided to move on from Germaine Burton, releasing him shortly after his suspension in the matchup against Buffalo. It's a decision that raises questions, and we'll dig into exactly what this could mean for the wide receiver room and how Zac Taylor addressed the situation. Before listening to the latest news, subscribe to the channel, like it, and don't forget to press the bell icon. Let's move on to the new news. Now, let's shift right into the heart of today's breaking developments and examine what this move signals for the Bengals going forward. The conversation around Germaine Burton has taken another sharp turn, and it's impossible to ignore how quickly his time in Cincinnati unraveled. When the Bengals drafted him in the third round back in 2024, the hope was simple: unlock his explosive ability and develop him into a weapon in this offense. Instead, the last 2 years turned into a steady pileup of problems that never stopped snowballing. Inside the building, the frustration had grown for a while. Missed meetings, inconsistency, lapses in professionalism, none of it ever stopped long enough for him to gain traction. And alongside the on-field issues, the off-field concerns never faded either. While not every detail is public, the pattern was clear. The Bengals kept waiting for stability, but it never arrived. It's a real shame when you think about what the team once envisioned. Burton had flashes, real ones, whether it was his burst on returns or the vertical speed he showed in the preseason. There were moments where you could see what made Cincinnati take a chance on him. But those sparks never materialized into a role, and he remained a healthy scratch week after week. Zac Taylor stayed quiet on the specifics of the most recent suspension, refusing to reveal what pushed things over the edge just before the Bills game. But whatever happened behind the scenes was evidently enough to end the experiment altogether, leading to today's decision to release him. As for what comes next, Taylor mentioned the possibility that a fresh start might help Burton. Maybe another environment will give him a chance to reset, but based on everything that's transpired, it's tough to know whether a new location will change the trajectory he's been on. All Cincinnati can do now is close the chapter and move forward. The truth is, the signs were there long before Burton ever put on a Bengals uniform. Even in college, the pattern of showing up late and ignoring expectations kept following him, and that exact same behavior resurfaced in Cincinnati. At some point, a roster spot becomes too valuable to waste, and the Bengals finally made the call they'd been inching toward for weeks. His release wasn't sudden. It was the conclusion of a long, frustrating build-up. Now, let's shift to something that has far bigger consequences for this team on the field: the health of Trey Hendrickson. Zac Taylor confirmed that Hendrickson will miss yet another game, this time against Baltimore, extending his absence to 6 straight weeks. For a defender who completely changes the energy of this pass rush, that news hits hard. The team has repeatedly labeled the issue as a hip or pelvic injury, but the situation took a turn today. Just before we went on air, a new report surfaced indicating that Hendrickson is heading to Philadelphia to meet with Dr. William Myers, a specialist known for diagnosing correlated injuries. And now the conversation has shifted. This might not be a simple hip problem. It could be a core injury, something serious enough to require surgery. And if that's the case, the Bengals may be staring at the possibility of Hendrickson being done for the season. It's a brutal blow. Hendrickson has been the engine of this defense, the one-player offense's fear on every snap. Since he went down at halftime in Week 8 against the Jets, the pass rush has struggled to generate consistent pressure. Joseph Ossai has stepped up at times, but when you look at the overall production, it's clear how much they missed their top disruptor. The numbers from PFF paint that picture: solid effort, but not the kind of impact that changes games the way Hendrickson routinely does. The Bengals desperately need answers, and soon, because this defense simply isn't the same without him. When you look at this Bengals pass rush without Trey Hendrickson, one thing becomes painfully clear: pressure without results isn't enough. It doesn't matter how often you push a quarterback off his spot, if you can't finish the play, the offense still wins. We saw it against Josh Allen. The Bengals forced him outside the pocket, but that only opened the field for him to take off and punish the defense with his legs. Even quarterbacks who aren't known for mobility, like Aaron Rodgers, managed to escape and extend plays this season. That's why Hendrickson's absence is so damaging. He's not just generating pressure, he's the guy who actually gets quarterbacks on the ground. And until he returns, Cincinnati has to find a way to survive without the one player who consistently collapses pockets. Right now, the future of his season is uncertain. He'll miss the matchup against Baltimore, and the upcoming specialist visit will determine how serious this core issue truly is. Whether this ends in rest, rehab, or surgery, the Bengals are holding their breath. Now let's shift over to the offensive side and get into the latest updates on T. Higgins, because his situation has its own share of questions. Now let's move to the situation involving T. Higgins, because this update is just as important for the Bengals offense as Hendrickson's injury is for the defense. Higgins has officially entered concussion protocol following the matchup against Buffalo, and honestly, it felt like something the entire stadium and everyone watching at home already suspected. Throughout the game, he took several hard hits, including multiple moments where his head bounced off the turf. Even though Higgins told the staff he felt fine at the time, symptoms appeared after the game, the exact scenario the league's medical system is supposed to catch earlier. This is why the independent neurologist exists, to protect players who will always push through pain, especially in big moments. Higgins is as competitive as anyone on the roster, and he wasn't about to take himself out unless he literally couldn't stand. But that's precisely why the oversight matters. Yesterday, that system didn't do its job the way it should have. And yet, even while battling through those impacts, Higgins delivered one of his best performances of the season. 6 catches, 92 yards, 2 touchdowns, including that huge one late in the game when the Bengals needed a spark. He was their most reliable target all afternoon. But now the focus shifts to recovery. Concussions are unpredictable, and rushing back only makes things worse. The Bengals will have to monitor him closely, because losing Higgins for any stretch dramatically alters what this offense can be. That final touchdown from Higgins kept the Bengals alive late, but the bigger issue remains: the league has to handle these situations better. Anyone watching that game could see the signs. Higgins hit his head hard in the first half, then again in the second, and both times he got up slowly, pointing to his helmet. Moments like that are supposed to trigger immediate evaluation. That's the entire purpose of having independent spotters in the building. No one wants to see Higgins sidelined, but player safety has to come first. This is already his second concussion scare in a short span, and after what happened earlier in the season, the Bengals can't afford for this to turn into something long-term. All anyone can do now is hope the symptoms are mild and he can recover quickly and fully. Now, shifting to the last story of the day, a topic that has been circulating all over social media. There's been growing chatter about Joe Flacco and whether he might seek a release to explore opportunities elsewhere. Nothing credible has confirmed it, but the conversations online have picked up enough that it's worth addressing. As of now, there has been no official movement from the team, no request from Flacco, and no reporting indicating that a change is imminent. Still, it wouldn't be shocking if speculation continues. The Bengals are committed to their current quarterback structure, and Flacco's role is clearly defined. Whether that leads to a quiet finish in Cincinnati or a mutual decision down the road remains to be seen, but for now, it's only talk, nothing more. With that on the table, the question becomes simple: should Cincinnati keep Joe Flacco as depth, or open the door if he wants a new situation?